My daughter screamed, "Get out or I'll call the cops." It's wild how a place you once called home can feel foreign in an instant. One moment I was slicing apples in a kitchen, washed with autumn light, listening to my grandson's feet thumping down the hallway. The next, my only child looked at me like I was some uninvited guest, not her mother. Those words didn't echo, they closed every chapter I thought we'd written together. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I just stared at Ashley, the baby I'd once rocked to sleep, and saw a woman I hardly recognized. I stepped past the living room where Samuel's old armchair still sat past the kitchen, still tinged with cinnamon from my last pie, and out onto the porch I'd repainted every spring since moving to Columbus. No suitcase, no coat, just my cell phone and a ring of keys that suddenly felt heavy and useless. While Ashley slammed the door, I called my realtor. She thought I'd leave with nothing but regret. By sunset, my old house, the one Samuel and I built from dreams, was on the market, and 3 offers had landed in my inbox. That's Ohio for you. Neighbors wave as you pack up your whole life, pretending not to hear the shouting behind closed doors. The air smelled of grass clippings and bonfire smoke and other families' laughter rising above the fences. But for me, the world had split in 2. I stood on the curb keys digging into my palm, feeling like a ghost haunting my own story. Have you ever felt yourself disappear right in front of the people you loved most? If you have, you'll understand walking away was only the beginning, because losing my home was the day I finally learned how to take my life back. They say you don't notice the cracks in a house until the afternoon sun finds them, until one day you catch your own reflection in the microwave and realize you're just a guest in your own kitchen. I'm Martha Louise Parker, and for over 3 decades, I was a wife, a mom, and a neighbor who brought extra banana bread to every potluck. When Samuel passed away, the house felt too quiet, so Ashley said, "Come stay with us, Mom. It's just until you feel yourself again." At first, I truly thought it would help. I moved into their guest room in Columbus, with the best of intentions, believing there was comfort in being close to family. Derek was kind enough, but always buried in work. Ashley stayed busy, her life an endless to-do list, soccer games, meal prepping, emails late into the night. So I tried to blend in. I cooked dinners, folded laundry, and walked their rescue mutt Baxter every afternoon. I left my slippers at the door, kept my voice down, learned to fit myself into their rhythm, like a well-loved cookbook you keep for sentimental value but rarely open. Ashley would smile, quick, polite, distracted. "Thanks, Mom. You're a lifesaver," she'd say, glancing at her phone already, halfway into her next meeting. Derek was always polite but never quite present, as if he was afraid to step into whatever storm might be brewing. It started with little things. "Can you run the dishwasher?" "Mom, did you see where my gym bag went?" I was happy to help, but the requests multiplied, and soon my days filled with errands and quiet chores no one noticed. Then I saw my name disappear from the mailbox, replaced with the Bennetts. Family pictures slowly vanished from the mantel, swapped for vacation shots and Ashley's work awards. My favorite coffee mug, a blue one Samuel bought at a flea market, vanished from the cupboard. One afternoon, I overheard Ashley on the phone. She means well, but honestly, she just takes up space. I forced a little laugh, told myself it was just stress talking. But that night I started sleeping with one ear open. The evenings stretched out long and silent. I'd water the begonias on the porch while their friends filled the backyard with laughter and music, their voices never quite reaching me. The invitations stopped. I became invisible in my own daughter's home. I wanted to believe things would get better. But then a letter from the bank arrived, my name, misspelled, almost an afterthought. Just a typo. Mom. Ashley shrugged, never looking up from her laptop. Have you ever wondered when love quietly sours into something else? Looking back, the cracks were always there. I just wasn't ready to see them. The day everything snapped started like any other. I got up early to make pancakes for Ashley and Derek. Baxter begged for scraps under the table, his tail thumping with hope. Ashley breezed in, checked her emails before she even took a bite, and Derek slipped out the door after mumbling a quick thanks. Ordinary routine, almost peaceful. That afternoon, though, I heard voices drifting from the hallway. Ashley was on the phone, her tone sharper than usual. "She's not leaving Derek. We've dropped enough hints, but she's just always here." Derek's voice, low and uncertain, floated back. "Well, as long as her name's still on the deed. What can we do?" The deed. For a second, I forgot to breathe. Not this house, of course, not Ashley's rental in Columbus. They were talking about the house Samuel and I had built, the home where Ashley grew up, filled with birthdays and anniversaries, spilled milk, and hard-won forgiveness. It was the only place I'd ever truly felt rooted. A few days later, Ashley left a tidy stack of papers on the kitchen counter. "Mom, just sign these when you get a chance. They're for insurance. Nothing urgent." Her smile was too bright, her eyes skittering away from mine. I picked up the pen, but something about the documents made my stomach tighten. My name looked slightly wrong, and on the last page, transfer of deed. I set the pen down and quietly slipped the papers back in the drawer. That evening, the tension finally burst. Ashley slammed a cupboard shut, exhaling in frustration. "Why can't you just trust me for once? You make everything so hard." I looked at her for a long moment. "Why can't you just treat me like your mother?" Her answer was silence, thick and final. It wasn't long before things got worse. During a weekend barbecue, Ashley, maybe spurred by embarrassment or resentment, turned to me in front of her friends and said, "Mom, you need to move on. You're not part of this household anymore." The laughter around the fire pit faded. Even Derek avoided my eyes. That night, I tried my key in the front door and it didn't fit. Ashley had changed the locks, so I slept in my car, clutching the keychain Samuel once gave me, my last link to a life I thought I still had. By morning, Ashley stood on the porch, her face stone-cold, phone clutched in her hand. "Get out or I'll call the cops." Have you ever realized in a single moment that you've become the villain in someone else's story? I hadn't left, but I was already gone. What Ashley didn't know, though, was that the real deed, the only thing that still belonged to me, was safe in my deposit box at the bank. And my story wasn't finished yet. I checked into a faded motel at the edge of Columbus, where the ice machine rattled all night, and the front desk clerk hardly looked up. It was a place for the invisible, and that suited me just fine. Lying on that lumpy bed, I stared at the water-stained ceiling and tried to make sense of what had just happened. Ashley's voice echoed in my head. "Get out, or I'll call the cops." I never thought those words would come from my own daughter. How many years had I spent holding her hand, sewing her Halloween costumes, staying up late to help with science fairs and heartbreaks. It all seemed so far away now, like a story I'd read and half forgotten. Sleep never came. Instead, I thought about the woman I used to be, the Martha, who laughed at Samuel's terrible puns, who danced barefoot in the kitchen, who built a family and a home from scratch. Was there any part of her left? By sunrise, I reached for the velvet pouch in my purse, the deed to the house Samuel and I built, the one Ashley grew up in. That deed was all I had left that no one could take. If I had to be invisible, at least now, I was invisible on my own terms. I called Mr. Bradley, our lawyer. "Martha, is everything all right?" he asked. "No," I said, "but I'm ready to sell, and I want it done fast." He was quiet for a beat, then said, "I'll get the paperwork started." That same morning, I walked through the old house one last time. The walls still held echoes of little feet and laughter of Samuel's humming as he fixed a crooked cabinet door of Ashley's teenage slamming doors. Letting go felt like tearing off a layer of skin, but holding on felt like dying slowly. The realtor came by, brisk and efficient. "The market's hot, Martha. I bet we'll have offers by tomorrow." I nodded, staring at the marks in the doorframe, where I used to measure Ashley's height every birthday. Ashley's texts started pouring in by lunchtime. At first, all anger. "You can't do this, Mom. That house is mine. You know that." Then guilt. "We're your family. How could you betray me like this?" then cold threats. If you don't pull the listing, I'll tell everyone how you left us. Don't think people won't take my side. I let every message sit unread. By afternoon, the agent called. Martha, we already have 3 offers, 2 above asking. You sure you want to do this? I took a deep breath. Absolutely. That evening, alone in the motel, I wrote in my old journal for the first time in years. Have you ever realized the only thing scarier than being alone is realizing you were never really seen, even when you were surrounded by family? But here's the twist. Ashley never saw coming. I had kept every document, every scrap of proof that the house was mine and mine alone. And earlier that day, I found something in Ashley's emails. She'd already started filling out paperwork to transfer the deed without my knowledge. She'd tried to forge my signature. Now I had the evidence, and for the first time, I felt more powerful than small. By Friday, not only would the house be gone, but Ashley would have to face the truth. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's the loudest answer you can give. And I was just getting started. By Friday morning, the offers for the house kept climbing. My agent called practically breathless Martha. We have a bidding war. If you sign today, you'll close before Monday. I stared at the phone, barely hearing her. That old house, Samuel's hands in every corner. Ashley's laughter in every wall was about to be someone else's dream. As I sat in the motel room, Ashley's messages kept coming, a flood of anger and desperation. You're destroying our family for money. I told Derek we could finally pay off the last of his loans. I told everyone this house was already mine. Do you know what people will say when they find out you left your own daughter homeless? That last message stung. But I let it sit unread the way you let a wound breathe before you patch it up. Then Aunt Margaret called Samuel's only sister, a woman I hadn't spoken to in years. Her voice was low and sharp. Martha, is it true you're selling the house? Ashley's in pieces over this. I let the silence stretch before answering. I have to think about my own survival, Margaret. I can't be the safety net forever. Margaret sighed. Don't let bitterness steal your kindness, Martha. Just be sure you're doing this for you, not just to get back at her. I hung up and realized for the first time I was. The phone rang again, this time Mr. Bradley. Did you know Ashley submitted a change of ownership form last month? The notary flagged it for suspected forgery. We have a legal trail if you need it. A chill ran through me. I thought I'd felt every kind of heartbreak, but discovering your only child could try to steal from you. I swallowed hard, thanking him. Please keep those documents. I might need them soon. By late afternoon, Ashley showed up at the motel. She looked like she hadn't slept, mascara-smudged hands, shaking. She didn't knock, just barged in as if she still owned some part of my life. Why are you doing this? Mom? Why now? Her voice was a broken thing, half accusation, half plea. I need something that's mine. That house, it's all I have to prove I belong. If you sell it, I have nothing. Don't you get that? I looked at my daughter, really looked. The scared girl inside the angry woman. I spent years keeping the past alive, Ashley. But it's time I start living for myself. You can't build your future from pieces of my past. She wiped her face, tried to glare, then just looked tired. So you're choosing money over family? No, I'm choosing myself for once. And you'll have to do the same. Her silence told me everything. That evening, I went to sign the final documents with Mr. Bradley and the agent. But as we wrapped up, a new complication arrived. A lawyer's letter from Ashley's attorney, contesting the sale, threatening a lawsuit for emotional damages and improper transfer of inheritance. Mr. Bradley just shook his head. She has no legal ground, Martha. But she'll make noise. She'll want the world to think she's the victim. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Let her talk. Sometimes silence is stronger than 1,000 accusations. As I left the office, I passed Mrs. Linwood, the neighbor who'd watched Ashley grow up. She stopped me on the sidewalk holding a small potted begonia. I heard you're moving on Martha. Good for you. If you ever want to join our book club, we'd love to have you. Her kindness was a balm I didn't know I needed. I took the begonia, felt its fragile roots, and thought, maybe it's finally time to grow something new. That night, alone in my motel room, I placed the begonia on the windowsill and let myself imagine a life where my story wasn't defined by sacrifice, but by choice. But deep down, I knew Ashley wasn't finished. The game had only just begun. And whatever she tried next, I was finally ready to meet her as my own woman, not just her mother. Monday arrived with a sharp, almost electric quiet. I woke before dawn, heart pounding, mind racing with every possible version of how this day could end. By noon, the house was no longer mine or Ashley's. The realtor called with finality in her voice, "It's done, Martha. Congratulations." Or condolences, depending on how you feel. I thanked her and sat down on the edge of the motel bed, letting it all settle in. Ashley, meanwhile, was unraveling. Her calls started early. First, rage. "You lied to everyone. I told Derek the house was mine. I took out a loan. What am I supposed to do now?" Then blame. "You planned this, didn't you? You wanted to see me fall. I can't believe my own mother would betray me." I listened to each message once, and then deleted it. If there was pain in my heart, I let it pass through, not stick. But it didn't end with voicemails. That afternoon, Derek called, his voice slow, almost numb. "Martha, I wish I'd known. Ashley said you were just signing paperwork, nothing big. Now the bank's coming for us. The house we live in, it was always rented. I'm sorry for all of it." By evening, the public fallout began. Aunt Margaret rang. "People are talking, Martha. Ashley says you cheated her." But you know what? For the first time, I'm not sure I believe her story. Then Mrs. Linwood from next door texted me. "You're brave, Martha. More women should stand up for themselves. Let me know if you need help moving." I felt a wave of something I hadn't expected, relief, and even a strange sense of validation. I'd always been the quiet one, the peacemaker. But suddenly my silence had a different power. But Ashley's attacks went public. She posted on social media. "My mother sold the house out from under me. Now I'm homeless, betrayed, and left with nothing." Within hours, the post had dozens of comments, some sympathetic, some suspicious, and a few that stung in their honesty. One old friend wrote, "You know, Ash, your mom was always the one holding things together. Maybe it's time you learn to do the same." That night, a letter arrived at my motel door. It was from Mr. Bradley. Inside were copies of Ashley's attempted deed transfer, the one flagged as forgery, and a brief note. "Use this only if you must. Your daughter's anger will pass, but the truth won't change." I put the documents away, unsure if I ever wanted to use them. But it gave me comfort knowing I finally had proof that my story wasn't just one more thing for Ashley to rewrite. Then, just before midnight, Ashley showed up in the motel parking lot. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked hollow, empty, her bravado worn out by fear. She got out of her car and came toward me, hands trembling. "I know you have the papers, Mom. I know what I tried to do. I was desperate. Derek's leaving me. I have nothing. Don't you even care?" For a second, my heart broke all over again. "You tried to take something that wasn't yours, Ashley, and now you have to live with the consequences." "I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to save myself." Ashley's voice cracked. "If you ever loved me, you'll help me. Please, I need money. Just enough to get started again. Please, Mom." For the first time, I didn't reach out to comfort her. I stood my ground steady. I spent my whole life giving. Now I have to keep something for myself. "You'll have to find your own way, Ashley. The world is full of second chances, but you have to want one for the right reasons." She stepped back, defeated. "So that's it, after everything." I shook my head, not in anger but in certainty. "No, that's not it. That's the beginning for both of us." She left tears streaking her face. But I knew that for once my boundary was set. Upstairs, I stared out the motel window. Columbus lights reflected in the rain. For the first time in decades, I didn't feel like apologizing for wanting peace. But as I closed the curtain, My phone buzzed with a message from Aunt Margaret. "Ashley's talking about fighting for your will, saying you're not of sound mind. Be careful, Martha. She's not done yet." The hint of a new battle sent a shiver down my spine. Tomorrow would bring more than just grief. It would bring a test of everything I'd rebuilt. But I was ready. For the first time, I was truly ready to fight for my own life. As I climbed into bed, I realized the next chapter wasn't just about healing. It was about learning how to hold my ground, no matter who tried to push me off it. And the real reckoning, mine and Ashley's, was only just beginning. The days after the sale felt like living inside a storm that had finally broken the roof open. I thought the hardest part was over. But Ashley, stripped of her future, her husband, her reputation became a force of nature I'd never seen before. She stopped texting and started showing up. One afternoon she appeared at my motel door, with wild eyes and trembling hands. There was no trace left of the daughter who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Instead, I saw a woman desperate to claw back anything she could still claim as hers. "You did this," she hissed, her voice low and dangerous. "You made sure I'd have nothing left. Are you happy now, Mom?" I kept my voice steady, though my heart pounded. "I didn't take anything from you, Ashley. I just stopped giving away the pieces of myself you never saw." She shook her head, disbelief turning to fury. "You always said family mattered more than anything. But the second you had a chance, you chose yourself over us. Over me." She paced the tiny room, hands shaking. "Derek's gone. Friends have turned their backs. People are laughing at me, calling me a liar, a fraud. I have no job, no savings, nothing. What do you want from me, Mom Blood?" I stared at her for a long moment. "I want you to realize there's more to life than owning things. That your worth isn't measured in deeds or bank statements. I want you to learn how to be enough for yourself." Her eyes narrowed. "Easy for you to say with a pile of cash and a new apartment waiting. You stole my future. I hope you're proud." The venom in her words stung. But I saw something else underneath the wounded child, the terror of not being chosen, of not being enough. "You need help, Ashley. Not from me, not from money. Real help. I hope you find it before you lose what little of yourself is left." She scoffed, then laughed a jagged, broken sound. "You're the reason I'm like this. All those years I tried to make you happy, to live up to your expectations. And for what you'd rather be alone than have me near." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every mistake I'd made as a mother. Suddenly, the motel room seemed even smaller as the hours dragged by, heavy, with all the things left unsaid. I found my old journal in the bottom of my bag, the pages yellowed and soft at the edges. My pen hovered, and the memories poured in. Suddenly I was back in that old kitchen. A younger version of myself racing to get the bills paid, Samuel working double shifts. Ashley, maybe 8, tugging at my sleeve with a fistful of crayon drawings. "Look, Mama, I drew a family. See, that's you and Daddy and me." But I was too distracted, too tired. "Not now, honey. I have to finish these numbers. Maybe later." Maybe later never came. Over the years, maybe later turned into gifts. The new bicycle, she didn't really want a shiny necklace for graduation, when all she wanted was my time. When money was tight, I promised her, "If you work hard, you can have anything you want. Life rewards those who take care of themselves." I thought I was teaching her strength and independence. Maybe without realizing, I was teaching her to equate love with things money security proof. She was valued. Now, as Ashley raged and begged and mourned for a house and an inheritance, I saw the shape of my own mistake. Did I build this hunger in her? Did my pride and my fear plant the very seeds of her emptiness? The guilt pressed in, and I almost reached for the phone. But then I remembered the last thing Samuel ever told me, sitting together in the twilight. Both of us tired but grateful. "We do the best we can, Martha. Sometimes we get it wrong. All we can do is love them and hope one day they find their way back to us and to themselves." The memory didn't erase the pain, but it made me softer, less certain, and strangely more ready to forgive us both. I looked at Ashley. Really looked. Ashley, I really see you for the first time in years. And I'm sorry for every time I made you feel like you weren't enough. But I can't save you from yourself. She collapsed into the old chair by the window, tears running down her face. For a moment, I wanted nothing more than to hold her comfort, promise her that everything would be all right. But I knew that lie would only chain us together, in the old patterns. The motel phone rang a reminder of the world outside our storm. It was Mr. Bradley. Ashley's attorney filed a petition to contest your mental fitness, Martha. They're trying to freeze your assets. Ashley looked up, her expression almost triumphant through the tears. If I can't have the house, I'll make sure you never get a day's peace. That's fair, isn't it, Mom? My hands shook, but my resolve was steady. You can drag me into court, Ashley. You can throw every lawyer in Ohio at me. But you can't take back the years I spent loving you or the dignity I finally claimed for myself. She stood, her anger spent. You know I used to believe the worst thing in the world was being alone. Now I know it's realizing you never really had anybody on your side. She slammed the door on her way out, leaving me in the quiet that followed. Grief, anger, and a strange kind of freedom swirling together. That night I sat by the window and wrote in my journal, pouring out everything I'd carried for decades. I've tried to be the mother Ashley needed, the woman Samuel loved, the neighbor everyone counted on. Now for the first time I'm learning to be Martha for myself. The next morning the news spread. People in Columbus whispered, speculated, some even came to my motel room to offer support. Mrs. Linwood arrived with lemon muffins and gentle wisdom. Sometimes you have to let go of what you love, so it can come back to you whole, or so you can. I watched Ashley from afar. She was moving out, leaving Derek's place for a friend's couch. Her name whispered with equal parts sympathy and judgment. She fought, she threatened, she tried every tactic to get what she thought she deserved. But in the end, the world didn't bend to her anger. It simply moved on. As for me, I started to taste the quiet sweetness of survival. I let myself cry for what was lost and for what might finally be found. And as the court summons arrived, I didn't feel fear. I felt ready. The real battle was just ahead, but for the first time I wasn't fighting for anyone but myself. Time doesn't heal all wounds. It only teaches us which scars we must carry and which ones we can finally set down. After the court dismissed Ashley's lawsuit, the city's gossip faded, and the story that once seemed to define my whole life grew quieter, softer, less sharp. The judge's words echoed. There's nothing unfit about a woman who learns to protect her own boundaries. With those words, the last hope of Ashley claiming the house or the money slipped away. I could feel the relief and sorrow mingling, freedom and loss, always walked together in the end. Ashley, for a while, vanished from my days, swallowed by her own struggle. Her reputation, once built on stories of inheritance and security, faded. Some friends drifted away. Even family like Aunt Margaret called less unsure where loyalty belonged. I learned quietly through neighbors and the rare phone call that Ashley had moved to a small apartment outside Cincinnati. She found work at a bakery, her first real job since college, and to my surprise, started therapy. For the first time, Ashley was forced to face the world on her own terms, without the illusion of safety that I'd tried to build for her all those years. Sometimes her postcards would come a few awkward sentences, but something honest in their brevity. Learning to wake up early, Mom. The dough rises before I do. Therapy's hard, but maybe I needed it. Some days are better than others. Hope you're well. No talk of lawsuits or money. No blame. Just a thread of real connection slowly mended. As for me, the quiet after the storm felt strange at first. I bought a small apartment overlooking the river. Not the grandest place, but every inch was truly mine. I filled it with begonias, wind chimes, and books. I joined a group for women starting over where we shared stories of love loss and lessons learned the hard way. For the first time in decades, I had hot coffee in the morning, long walks by the water. Sunday papers read front to back. I kept the old house keys in a drawer not to remember what I'd lost, but to remind myself I could always choose a new door. But healing wasn't a straight line. There were nights I lay awake replaying the old kitchen scene, little Ashley tugging my sleeve, with her crayon drawings the hurried maybe later, that became the rhythm of her childhood. I saw so clearly how I'd tried to love her with things, the new bike, the necklace for graduation, the promise that hard work would buy happiness. I thought I was teaching her strength independence, but perhaps I was teaching her to chase worth through what she could hold, not who she was. I used to ask myself if I'd created the emptiness that Ashley tried to fill with houses, money, and inheritance. But as the seasons changed, I realized we had both been trapped in the same illusion that love could ever be measured in what we give or get, instead of the time we spend, the forgiveness we offer, the courage it takes to let each other go. Sometimes I missed Ashley so much it ached, but I loved her enough finally to let her struggle and to trust that she'd find her own way as I was finding mine. One afternoon, a letter came, just a few lines written in Ashley's bold script. Mom, I still get angry sometimes, and I still blame you in my head, but then I remember you're just a person too. I'm working on forgiving you. Maybe you can forgive me too. I hope one day we can start over. Love, Ashley. I pressed the paper to my chest, letting tears come. I knew forgiveness would take time for her, for me. But the door was open, and that was enough. If you've ever found yourself at the end of a story, broken, blamed, or believing it's too late to begin again, know this. Every scar is proof that healing is possible. Share your story below. Or tell me about the day you chose to let go of what hurt and reach for something new. Because every ending is just a new beginning, waiting for someone brave enough to step through. These days, I water my begonias in the morning light and send a silent wish to every mother and daughter, learning to forgive to heal, to finally see each other as they really are. Human, fallible, and most of all worthy of love, not because of what we give, but simply because we are. This time our story belongs to both of us.